Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Hardin Local with Hardin County Government. It's a new monthly series connecting you directly with the people to keep Hardin County safe, moving, and informed. Each month, we're going to sit down with department heads and county leaders to talk about projects, challenges, and successes. And you'll have the chance to engage directly through your comments on our post or whenever we ask you. If you post a comment, we're checking those and we'll definitely ask the question as long as it's appropriate. Today we're going to start with emergency management and EMS, and we're going to be joined by three. We're joined by two today. Mark had an issue come up, personal issue, so he wasn't able to join us. But we have Brian Walker and Joey Scott. Most of you know Brian as the new communications officer at Hardin County. And Joey Scott, for those of you who don't know him, he's the emergency management director, who's doing great work, I may add. So, Brian, kick us off by sharing a bit about your vision for this monthly series with the department heads. I know it was your idea, and I thought it was a great idea, obviously. What do you hope to accomplish each month? And how do you see yourself supporting these discussions, considering you'll be with us each time?
I think it's transparency of government. A lot of people don't really understand or know or possibly even care what goes on day in and day out. We just know when something bad happens or an emergency comes up or a thing we're interested in happens, we want answers or we have a thought about it. And it's just, government's a huge thing. It's a big moving, breathing thing. We have over 300 employees and affiliated people just within county government, and that doesn't count other agencies like fire departments and things like that are associated but not actually under our umbrella. So I think a chance to speak to the people who shape your life every single day, even if you don't realize it, is pretty important. Plus there's seasonal issues, and then of course there's timely topics when things happen in the news or in the media that catch your attention. It's a good time to reflect on those. With us just coming off of that major event in Louisville and the tragedy of that, and the fact, and Joey can speak to this quite a bit, how our government was involved in it. And then, of course, the recent news and update about the ambulance service expanding. I feel like this was a great time to talk about those specifically. We're hiring also. But as far as being able to talk to, each of these different people, the road department's next month. Well, which roads county roads? Which road's my road? Who takes care of that? Who's responsible for bridges? So we'll get those answers next month, along with winter snow plan and things like that. So I hope it's just a good chance for people to learn more about their government and their role in it and how they can get involved.
That is better than I could have put it. Thank you for that. So since you were talking about Hardin County expanding life-saving reach, let's talk about that. Oh, look, let's get Scott in here. Scott's here.
You hear me? All right. I guess Brandenburg Telecom didn't like the weather and
for the internet
going off and on for the last hour and a half.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's technology.
We're glad you're here with us. So, Joey, since you're going to be mainly the one talking during this segment, I'm going to put you on the big screen. And Scott, we're at segment one. Before we get started, though, Joey, through the actual work questions, kind of wanted you to share a little bit of your story, how you ended up at Hardin County government being the emergency management director. Do you give us maybe a 90-second to 2-minute spiel of how you got there?
So I've been involved in emergency services for 30 years now. Started straight out of high school. My father was an emergency services firefighter. So I've been around firefighting my entire life. So went to work for City of Radcliffe as a paid firefighter, retired from there. Then I came to work for Hardin County government here as the EM director.
Well, Hardin County just added its 9th full-time ambulance and crew. That's a major win for public safety. Joey, how did this, and I don't know, since Mark's not here, I'm not sure, how you and Brian want to deal with this part, but I'll let you guys kind of go with it. I'm gonna move you down here, Brian. So how did this come together, and what's the impact for residents?
Well, I can speak on, one of my main priorities coming into emergency management position here was to improve the western portion of Hardin County's emergency services. Our response times have been 30 to 50 minutes in some instances. So,
and not to interrupt, but that's just to get to the emergency. That has nothing to do with treatment on the scene or transport. So,
no, thank you, Brian. That's and that's true. That was just to get to the emergency. So we knew there was a big problem there, and we've been all hands on deck for the last 6 months, at least 6 months, of communicating with the West Hardin Fire Department to potentially make this happen. And, with Judge Tall's support, magistrate support, and again, the people of Western Hardin County came to the local town hall meeting, the forum, and I didn't get to make that night. I was under the weather, but again, everything I heard was so positive from that, and that just shows you what coming together as a community can do. And there were some good discussions there, and it's a huge success win for emergency services of Hardin County and the people of Western Hardin County. This is a historic event.
And there were about 4 different plans that were available, which would take forever to explain, but there could have been an opportunity to move some ambulances around and put those into a part-time position, or put a new one in White Mills at 40 hours a week, or just utilize the resources we had and spread them around. The best option that everybody felt, and I think Joey and Mark and other folks that were powers that be in all this, including Judge Tall, after a lot of prayerful consideration, felt like this was the best option. One of the blessings is, as Joey mentioned, White Mills Fire Department, or the fire department in White Mills, they took it upon themselves to say, if we put you a space in, this will possibly encourage you to want to come a little quicker, or to look at our sincerity in wanting to support this. And they raised money and spent $25,000 to put in living quarters and the infrastructure to be able to support a full-time ambulance staff. And then, of course, that work was completed by the work crew from the detention center, and that saved them a lot of money. And it was very quality work. I've been there and seen it myself. I know Joey has as well. But we are looking through the history. I've been reading up on the history of EMS in this county, and the documentation is kind of interesting. Prior to October 1980, ambulance service in Hardin County was run by a combination of local funeral homes, volunteer fire departments, a private ambulance service, and an arrangement between Hardin and LaRue counties. And that's just 45 years ago. We didn't actually have an EMS, and here we are adding our night service and hiring more employees.
So this chart I have up on the screen, is this the new updated one? Or explain that a little bit to people that don't understand. Because Hardin County is a big county, right? It's one of the largest in the state, I think, just by area.
Yes,
right.
Again, this is the updated one, and you can, if the previous chart, you can see where the different districts. This is actually the western portion of the county. This will take some of the pressure off our E-Town trucks as well. Moving this all around, I think the big thing that's not really been mentioned too much is you see the Station 3 and Station 5. That's going to cover the western and southern portion of the county. Something unique that we have now that we didn't have in the past was a backfill truck in that area. We'll have, so if Station 5's out on the run and they're transporting to the hospital, then we got Station 3 that can move up and cover both districts, vice versa. So that's a huge accomplishment for EMS. And
there's been some changes in how we operate in just this last calendar year, mainly the last 6 months. These mutual aid agreements between ourselves and Bullitt County and ourselves and LaRue County. We run into LaRue County, I think it's been 190-ish times so far this calendar year. And that is because they have 2 ambulances in all of LaRue County. Both of those are stationed in Hodgin. And if you're looking at the portion of the map here where you see the blue and the sort of pink colored areas, that portion of LaRue County, when you call in 911, we're a regional 911 hub, that is why our ambulances will roll in and respond to that area. Then in the very northern part of the county, which is separated from us geographically by Fort Knox and Meade County, is our town of West Point, and they are in Hardin County. But due to the extreme amount of distance between the Radcliffe stations and the city of West Point, we have actually stopped running there unless we are needing to back up in a more severe situation. Bullitt County, which is of course adjacent to it, is a very short distance away, and their response times are quicker. So we aid LaRue, Bullitt aids us, and we've been running into Hart County some lately. And this is just it's a cooperative effort. We have our people in our area, but there's so much more than just us. We're not going to let a county line dictate, oh, we can't go over there and help them. They're not.
I think there was some data that guided the decision. Is that something that's easy to digest? like to explain quickly, or how that decision came, with what data you might have used to decide?
Joey crunched a lot of those numbers and was involved in part of the decision-making process and informing our choices. So I think probably it's best if he kind of talks about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the data, I mean, you can look at all the data angles you want to. The main data angle was the response time, and just the times from getting from Sonora to White Mills to the, we're focused on White Mills because that's where the station's going, but you got to take in effect also as Western Hardin County, which is the Hardin Springs area, which is a long travel distance between Sonora and there. So that was the main focus of the data, was the response times. And how many run volumes, and I do believe the run volumes will pick up, because a lot of people that we heard in the town hall forum have been transporting themselves to the hospital, and that's, we want to eliminate that from happening.
If you're literally sitting there in an emergent situation to the point that it is truly life or death, and if you're fully informed and it's going to be 30 minutes at best before an ambulance even gets here, why would you wait? Why would you call the ambulance? Just put them in your vehicle and transport them privately. And that has been the case. And we heard that story time and time again. And Joey and the other folks involved in EMS and fire and emergency management and other such things. Am I exaggerating when I say we're 30 plus years behind where we need to be as far as where we wish we all were with equipment and manpower?
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to tackle to fix. It's just we're years behind here in Hardin County, and this is a major step to get that ambulance put in White Mills.
Yes. What about the expected coverage improvements and staffing updates? I know you guys are hiring now for EMS. So maybe you could talk about that for a second.
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
That's all right. We had 58 positions whenever we started talking about expanding, and we had 58 crew. We're already in the process. You kind of are already looking always to get more, because things come up. People resign. You have, people get sick, they get hurt, they go on maternity leave, there's vacations, there's holidays. So you need to always be able to have these backfill folks. But now we're actually adding new people because we have a new site and we'll need a full-time crew. Isn't it 9 people, Joey, on average that run a rig?
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh.
So we're looking at basically 9 to 12 people to bring on board. We have enough people to cover in the short run, but it's not a viable plan to do it over the long run of time. We're looking at about $300,000+ in additional payroll to get us to the end of the fiscal year in June. So we'll commit to that, and then budget allocations for next year will certainly get to where we need to be to figure out what we'll have to cover for all of that.
Okay. Well, it's exciting times. And if anybody's interested in applying for a job with EMS, how's the best way to do that?
HardinCountyKY.gov. And there's a button there that you click on that is job opportunities. We have things open in 911 as a dispatcher. We've got several opportunities to work for our emergency services folks. And then we've got some other positions as well within county government. And, I made a choice recently to come here. I've been here about 6 weeks, and there's a lot of benefits to working for county government, not just maybe you end up in a job you're really happy about, but one of the things with EMS is they get this hazardous duty retirement, and Joey can talk about that a little bit. Not every county can even offer that.
That's correct. It's a lot of your fire departments across the state of Kentucky. Very few EMSs are hazard duty retirement. Majority of all your Jefferson County are hazard duty retirement, but locally in this area, I think this outside of Hardin is the only hazard duty retirement in the near region here. So
going along with that, I just have a question. Like, what are the prerequisites or requirements? Like, if somebody wanted to be with the EMS or needed another role with the government, is there like a certain baseline qualifications, or does it kind of vary or depend on the role?
Yeah, if you're talking EMS, and I'll let Brian speak to the other portion of it. But EMS, you go through a EMT course, basic EMT course, which we offer those classes here. There's also classes offered at ECTC as well. Once you get your EMT training, then you just apply for a job and come in for the interview, and then 90% of it's on the job learning experience. I mean, you can only teach so much in the classroom, but that's your first initial step is the class.
And the other part with he mentioned ECTC, the Work Ready Scholarship Program. There is a very good chance that someone could come in and get out of that program paying $0. That's what this Work Ready Scholarship is about. It wants to get people in these hands-on jobs and these services and and these skills that, we're sorely lacking in. For 50 years, they told everybody, you got to go to college or you won't get a good job. You got to go to college, you won't get a good job. And now in the United States, we're sorely lacking in educated, quality people who can do a skill or a task or a job that does need to be filled. Everything from diesel mechanics to welders to certified nursing assistants, chefs. There's just so many things that are vital to our country, and this is one of them.
Yes, I think that's true. What's what are like a couple of the top characteristics of a good EMT person that, if there's somebody watching or maybe a parent watching and their kid doesn't know what they're going to do with their life, what are some of those characteristics that make them good at that job?
Again, that's not going to be determined to do the job. I mean, because it's, but if you want a job in emergency services, it's a great place to start. A lot of people come into EMT and they become firefighters. Vice versa. We have a lot of firefighters that work part-time, paid firefighters that work part-time for Hardin County EMS as well.
Okay. Well, let's move over to the next segment, which is winter weather and safety, because winter is right around the corner. I even heard it might be getting real cold in the next week. Let's talk about the emergencies we can prepare for: snow, ice, and power outages. Joey, what should households be doing right now to get ready?
Well, again, that's buttoning up. That's kind of a term we use in emergency services. Make sure your house is tightened up. Make sure your insulation is correct. Making sure your windows are sealed correctly. Again, educate yourself on generators. That's a big thing. Educate yourself where not to put one, where to put one, because we deal with carbon monoxide issues quite often in major winter storms. But most importantly, follow your local media outlets when it comes to alerts. We have an alert system here. I'll cover here in a few minutes. But again, take advantage of the National Weather Service. Take advantage of all of our forecasters. We have so many outlets with so much good information to go get at any time.
I know that we have people used to get weather radios a lot, which I guess that's still a good idea to have one in case you lose power and internet and everything. But also the RAVE alert system. Is that something that you guys will just talk to why residents maybe need to get themselves a weather radio, but also the RAVE alert system is pretty helpful?
Again, I always tell everybody to have two means of notification. Always have two means of notification. And again, you're inside your homes. Our weather sirens. We have tornadoes and wind events in the wintertime as well. Don't count on hearing those inside. They're outdoor weather sirens. So it's good to have our RAVE system. Most people have been watching, following the news of the Jefferson County incident. They have they was referring to LENS a lot. That's the same thing Hardin County has, but it's RAVE. That's the name of our system. Our RAVE system. You can go on our website at hardincountyky.gov. As soon as you click on our website, there's a QR code to scan your phone and sign up for the RAVE. And I encourage you to do that, because not only are we going to put out weather stuff, we're going to put out, we can put out missing people on there. We can also put out significant actions you need to take if we call to shelter in place, kind of like what you seen the other night. That was a massive scale of a large shelter in place, and you have to have a place to go get that information. So it's really good to have that. And on the weather radios, they're so common. You can go to any store, hardware store. You can go to Kroger's carries them. They're very inexpensive, $25 to $30. They're great to have a battery backup. So it's a good idea to have that. Stock up on your batteries. That's another good thing that in winter times. Again,
and some of them wind up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Radios, they still sell today, and those are very effective in power outage situations, because winter storms are different. When you get these large scale ice events, you could be days on days without power. It's not like it's blown down. It's it's all covered in ice, so you have to let it thaw out before you fix it.
What are some communication tips for speeding up response times when you call into 911? I know that's some people don't ever think about it until it happens. Are there a couple of things that you could share with people that would help them, get faster service?
Sure. Again, 911 is what that means. It's an emergency. That's what you call for emergency. We had 1,000 calls within an hour during the March windstorm, which was very taxing. Our people were just amazing, done an amazing job and handled all those calls. But again, a lot of people was calling to let us know they seen a tree blow down across the street. That's not what that's for. If you have a true emergency, that's what 911's for. Be direct with them. and answer their questions. They're going to prompt you through some very significant questions. Again, depending on your type of emergency you're having, it could be something medical emergency to a fire. So you want to give them good information and quick information so they know. We are very blessed to have an enhanced 911 system that when you call in, it pinpoints your location. So we know where to come to.
Okay. That's good information to know. Also, it's considering that it's, getting colder, darker earlier and everything. I know we still people may debate this, or I still think there is like a mental health crisis going around just almost everywhere, not just around here. But some emergencies don't make the news; they happen quietly. So how can we be prepared to help others when they're struggling, with whether depression, addiction, or abuse? And what are your thoughts on that, Joey?
Well, and I'll push this number out. 988 is I guess everybody's heard of that number. That's a great number we just sat through a class yesterday on that. Us as first responders, we educate ourselves. We also, back when I started 30 years ago, you didn't hear this. No one talked about it, and we've seen the effects from that. So we thought, we need to have some support groups, and we have that now. We can come in during debriefing incidents and talk to our people because, it is very, very hard on your mental health when you deal with some of the emergencies we deal with.
And just for the general public too, there's not, for the most part, the shame that people used to feel or that people would put on others for having an issue or a crisis, whether it be addiction, something that's just not within their ability to control it, like a mental health crisis. And there are still those who judge others from that. But I think as a society, we've gotten a lot better, and I think even the government is starting to see sometimes people need help. They don't need to be arrested. Sometimes people need an opportunity. They don't need to be beaten down when they're already down. We have our quick response team now, which is come January is going to be 1 year old. And that is something that is really, really made a lot of contacts in the community. And we'll have them on as guests in a couple of months on this program. They are not a law enforcement agency. They do not have arrest powers. They are there to help be a resource, distribute Narcan, teach the classes. They worked with school students and the community just this week and offered classes to this, and drugs affect every facet of our lives. You've got young people who get exposed to it as teens. You've got older people who maybe they had a surgery and they took some medicine to help them deal with pain. And then, oh no, now they're hooked. It isn't the guy hiding behind a dumpster. It's a dirty drug addict. There's very professional people who slip into this and they need an opportunity to get out of it. So things like that quick response team, I think, are really crucial. And they do a lot of knock on people's doors in areas where there's been a spike. It's scary. What I saw as a teenager and a young adult is really not even the things we worry about as much now. These fake pills where they take and combine good Lord only knows what, and they press them into the shape of a legitimate pill, and you don't know what you're taking. And we've lost a lot of good people in this very community because of things like that.
Brian, going along with that real quick, the quick response team, what are they supposed to do with an overdose? If something were to happen to somebody in overdose, how do they interject and help?
So they're not usually on the scene as it's happening. That's more of an EMS emergency type situation. They're what comes into play after. They talk to the person who had the crisis, and then they talk to their friends and they talk to their neighbors and educate their families. And again, this is a help. This isn't it's not a judgment. And there's peer coaching involved in that. And it's to show people, look, we care about you. We're not here to arrest you. We can't arrest you. I do want to hit a thing that I don't think most people realize. If you're at a party and somebody drinks too much or they take a drug and they're in a crisis medically, you're duty bound as a human being, but also under state law to contact emergency services. But you cannot and will not be charged if you stay there with that person until help arrives. If you just leave somebody there and you know about it, that's criminal. If you call and go, hey, he's going to be laying out in the front yard, I'm leaving, I'm scared, you can be charged. But if you're literally there with that person when law enforcement arrives, you can't be charged or prosecuted with that specific instance. And that's something I think people need to understand. Of course, who wants to be charged? Who wants to be arrested?
Right.
And I don't think anybody ever woke up one day and said, you know what, I want to be a drug addict. I think sometimes it's small incidents or it's incremental or they try it once and they think it's great, and next thing they know, they've slipped into it.
Right.
And maybe
With that, I know we have the local people like Silverleaf, different organizations like that. Do those play a role in assisting or being of service with the quick response team, or is that just going to be separate to whatever they do in addition to?
I think some of these things overlap, don't you, Joey? I mean,
it's a coordinated effort, I think, between all agencies that work together.
I mean, sometimes, Kentucky is very, very rarely highly ranked in child abuse cases, domestic violence cases in the states, here in the United States, and that's a horrific thing. But sometimes these things couple. You'll have someone who is a chemical addiction. Then there also can sometimes come in violence or sexual inappropriate activity. That sometimes those things can overlap and involve multiple agencies and groups that are here to help.
I know with family and friends, we try to have that hard conversation with those people that we love. Do you, either one of you, have any advice or tips on how someone can open that conversation with someone?
Go ahead, Brian, if you want to.
Maybe you don't know how. Maybe you don't have those tools. Maybe you're not equipped with it. Maybe you're not in a relationship with that person where you can even broach the subject. Reach out. There are a lot of different organizations that want to help. It could be quick response team, could be a church, it could be a mental health situation. Sometimes some of these things are coupled. Sometimes you've got somebody's in a crisis that could be a couple of things compounding each other. And let's not fool ourselves. A lot of times people become chemically dependent, alcohol even, because they're trying to mask something or they're trying to self-medicate. They don't like who they are. They don't want to be the person they are. They've got shame, they've got whatever. And then they start looking for these altering substances to change them. And obviously it's not what's best. It's not what works. But once they've gotten into that, then, it's hard to get out of it sometimes for these people.
Before we move on to the next section, I know me and you, Brian, talked about it yesterday off camera, just like the just kind of a negative connotation about Narcan. And even though it's a tool that even if if you're not a person, maybe you're a parent or maybe you're an aunt or an uncle, and you're like, I never would have that on me. I mean, maybe that's not the right mindset, because it can save lives, especially if it's just some, like you said, some of these people that are dying, I've had friends that have died and they weren't somebody gave them a pill, that looked like a real one. And they didn't have the tools they needed, the people around to be able to, help. So I don't know if you have any follow up on that.
I've heard the argument that if you supply people with Narcan, that's going to make them feel like, well, now I can do drugs because I know I'll be okay. I can take this and I won't die. I don't know that the Narcan is for people who are actively using. I think it's for the active person who may just run across them in public. It's for the police officer, the firefighter, the EMS worker, the guy down the street. I'll be honest with you, right here in my desk, I have Narcan. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think anybody in my office building or in county government is using drugs, but that doesn't mean somebody could walk in off the street that might be in crisis, or you could get exposed to something that you didn't mean to. Fentanyl. I mean, Joey, you see this all the time now.
Yes, we do. I mean, and again, the first responders, they come across fentanyl all the time, and you have to be extremely careful because, we're exposed, and again, we become a part of the problem and statistic. That training for Narcan not only goes through EMS, it goes through fire, police, everybody involved in it knows how to use the Narcan.
That's correct. I think being prepared is about compassion, and knowing how to help could save a life. So we appreciate this part of this conversation. And like you did say earlier, if you're experiencing mental health, suicide thoughts, and you need crisis or help, call 988. Now we'll move on to the next segment, which is just kind of talking about Hardin County EMS, people, calls, and careers. Let's give people a peek inside EMS. How many calls does the team handle each year, and what does a typical day look like?
Well, so Hardin County EMS they're 24/48. That means we work 24 hours on and off 2 days. So work 1, off 2. And again, it's you have a second family. So you leave your home, you come to the second family. You eat, you clean the ammo station, you check your trucks, you get prepared for runs each day. Again, it's a great career. The 2 days off. I always coming from somebody that retired from firefighting, you spend more time over a lifetime probably with your emergency services family than you do your own family. So you become very close in the bond. So it's Brian said it good earlier. It's kind of like a fraternity. It's a big brotherhood, and you watch out. Your family just grows. You become a part of something great, and you're saving lives. You're saving lives. That's the at the end of the day, we have some amazing, talented people here. Couldn't be more proud to be a part of them and to watch them work there. They truly are professions.
Yes, I agree. I think it takes a special kind of person to answer those calls, and we really appreciate it. I know Eddie Milburn too appreciates it. He just commented, said thank you all for all you do, and Johnny Bonnet as well said I think cooperative effort is a good idea, monumental. So seems like the viewers are agreeing. So let's move on to the last segment, which is education and community outreach. Beyond responses, there's education. How are EMS and emergency management engaged with schools and the community?
We emergency management, we go in and talk with the schools about weather events. We're pushing the RAVE through the education in schools as well. EMS goes out and does teddy bear clinics, which is an amazing thing. We're holding CPR classes here at Hardin County EMS. And again, if we're not holding one, we'll get the information to find you one. So, and that's a great thing. I can't encourage enough for people to get certified in EMS because we covered this earlier today, talking about the AEDs. You go into a shopping center, you see them on the wall. You go into a restaurant, you see them on the wall. You go to your gym where you work out, they're on the walls there. Those are for your use. Those are for the common people. So to educate yourself and get trained and certified to use those, you can save a life.
And don't they? Do you guys still leverage that app? Is it Pulse Point for that sort of thing once somebody's been trained?
Yes. That Pulse Point is another app that the county pays for, another service. It's a great service too. It monitors car accidents in Hardin County, especially someone travels the road a lot, especially I-65. You can look on that Pulse Point app and know that probably traffic's going to be at a standstill, find an alternative route to use. A lot of school bus drivers have Pulse Point on their phones, which is a great idea too, to find alternative routes to go. So, but again, it will give national disaster alerts too. So, but if you're within so many feet of that cardiac event going on, where someone has no pulse, not breathing, then it will notify your phone. It does GPS pick you up and tell you that there's one close to you.
And I think there's a way to go in there once you've been trained and understand what to do. You can say, I want to be alerted to go help, right?
Yes, you don't have to turn that alert on, but you can if that's the choice you make. And then again, if that comes in, then you might be the only person with close that knows how to do CPR, and you can save a life.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if I'd ever put all the pieces together until this conversation, how that could work. So who can request demos and training? Is it like you said you do schools? What about businesses or churches, or who can request, and how do you request to get?
We have a person here that takes care of public education at EMS. Anything that any business wants or what have you, please reach out to us. She does a great job at scheduling, so she can put together something, and we'll get out and do what we need to do for you.
No, that sounds like a great idea, considering how large the county is. Even with adding more, I know there's caring people out there that maybe didn't know that they could be part of the solution if they so choose.
Yeah, and that phone number is 270-769-3014. And that will get you here to the main administrative office, and we can direct your call into the education department.
Okay. And residents too can sign up for classes, right?
Yes.
And you do that. Is there a place on the website, or do you just call in?
Again, just call in. We can link you over to the education department.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I do want to hit something that Joey and I talked about earlier. We've had some severe weather events in the last 12 months. With snow and ice and things like that. But the flooding, they call that 100-year flood. And it was substantial. And, creeks and rivers and lakes were overflowing their banks. And Joey, wasn't it like 3 weeks some of these areas were underwater?
Yes. The southern portion of the county, we had roads inaccessible for 3 weeks. Just a historic flood. I mean, I heard a lot of comparisons to 1937 flood, which we all know that was the big one for the state of Kentucky.
Swift water rescues, which is, somebody gets into water either through a choice they made or the water came up so quickly they weren't able to protect themselves. We talk about turn around, don't drown. And Joey, with his work with the fire department and of course emergency management, you've been hands-on with these rescues. How many did we have to do this year just here?
It was over 50, and that's including evacuations from homes in the Colesburg area and the West Point area. Again, I like to commend the City of Elizabethtown Fire Department, their rescue team, City of Radcliffe Fire Department, their rescue team, Hardin County Tracers, their rescue team. These guys are the best of the best. They do a great job in training. I was really impressed. Again, a lot of these could have been prevented, and that we beg you to educate yourself and keep track of the weather and understand. Turn around, don't drown, don't go through something like that. So, again, these guys they've done about 50 rescues.
And people were literally moving barriers that, we had taken the time, our road department is just exhausted during these times. And they bothered to put up barriers to say, please don't cross this. People were moving.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. That's great. Yeah. What do you guys think about this? This is something that I bought myself and my kid's mom the other day. I'm going to share it. These are like these glass break tools you can hang up on your mirror.
And the hooked part on that also cuts through a seatbelt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought I didn't realize they made these things and they're so cheap.
I can tell you, Phil, probably most firefighters carry something very similar to this, and we, especially the guys riding the rescue trucks.
Gotcha. Back. I think it's a great idea to get one if you don't have one.
Yeah.
And it's not really for your own personal safety, because in an emergency, if you're probably in a situation where you've got to break your own windows out, you might not be able to get to that. Your car could be upside down. That's probably, I'm guessing, wouldn't you say, Joey, to help somebody you come across?
That's right. Again, a lot of these rescues we had, some of them were in dark country, rural areas that people have never seen water over those roads, and that's what's so historic about this flood. Areas flooded that's never flooded before, and people would try, just run into these waters when someone would come up and call in for them. So having a tool like that, you can approach a car and maybe save a life. Having something. Like not only that, but a fire extinguisher. I encourage people to put a fire extinguisher in your car as well. You just never know what you're going to come across when you're traveling.
Yeah. Well, and the right kind of fire extinguisher. One for your kitchen isn't the same as a car fire, isn't the same as a house fire.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm assuming like an electrical, like if you drive a Tesla, you need a different type of fire extinguisher than like a gas powered car. I don't know.
Yeah. Battery. The new battery age is a whole different ballgame. So
yeah. We won't get into that, but yeah, I just thought of that, and it makes me feel safe, even though I just hang it on my rear view mirror. They have a clip, so like hopefully if anything ever happened to me, I would still be hanging there, and could break the window with it. Well, a big thank you to you guys for coming and joining us today. This marks, the beginning of our Hardin County Government Monthly Series, keeping you informed, connected, and part of the conversation. We want this to be a two-way street. So if you have questions for county leaders or ideas for future topics, drop them in our comments, send us a message, send us an email. You can figure out how to get a hold of us on hardinlocal.com, which is, it's not a real big thing. It's not a complicated website. It's just a link tree with links that are relevant to the content that we share on our podcast. Next month, we'll be back with Brian on December 5th, and the county road department will be joining us to discuss paving projects, snow removal, what's coming this winter, and we're going to make sure everybody that watches knows the difference between a county, a city, and a state road.
County doesn't build roundabouts. I want to point that out right now.
There you go.
Judge Tall and the magistrates have never a single time put in a roundabout.
Not paid or any of it, right? I at first I didn't like those things, but the bigger ones are kind of nice. It's almost like having a tunnel instead of a stoplight.
I'm loving the new ones on 62.
Yeah.
If you try to turn left off that and go down by the Pritchard Center, it was, or even turning by Southern States and trying to come back towards town, it was. You'd sit there a while.
You sure would, but I think they're safer too. I've heard.
My opinion about roundabouts is mine. That is not the official statement of Hardin County government. Those opinions are mine alone.
Don't worry, our editorial policy on Hardin Local podcast clearly states that everybody that's on here, their opinions are their own.
Good.
And so yeah, we understand. So we hope that you follow us, share these important these streams with the Hardin County government. I also want to put out an invite to the other municipalities and cities and Hardin County. We can do this very same thing with you guys, city of Radcliffe, city of Vine Grove, city of E-Town, or, also if you're police station, sheriff's office, fire department, and you want to, get with us and on a regular basis, or just, once a year, once a quarter, whatever, let us know. We're here to serve and support our community. So we do definitely thank you, Joey, for all the work you do. I know I hear lots of good things about what you're doing, and I'm not trying to be too nice, but I don't think it's too nice when it's the truth. So
thanks, sir.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your service. And
Yes.
of course, you too, Brian.
Thank you.
You
I don't
too.
save lives. I just talk about it after.
Sometimes that saves the next life. Part of it, anyway.
You'd hope.
Yeah, I think words matter. Obviously, I think. But yeah, we'll let you guys go. We hope you had a nice, safe weekend. Don't drink and drive, and just take some time to enjoy life this weekend and not be too stressed. I know the darkness and the coldness makes it a little harder sometimes, and if you're experiencing mental health issues or having suicidal thoughts, reach out to somebody, call 988, or reach out to a church or a friend or a family, because nobody wants you to do that alone. That's a lie. That's just shame, and shame is going to stay unless you speak it. So speak it. We'll see you guys next week on Tuesday for Hardin Local Weekly.